I was sitting in my car parked right in front of the little cream-colored cottage at Henderson Lake, the one with the cedar shutters and the wraparound porch Sophia had fallen in love with at first sight. The house she would be moving into next week. The house she could only afford because I had wired $60,000 from my savings without blinking. The house I told myself would finally make me feel like I belonged in this family. My hands were still on the steering wheel when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen expecting a reminder from Sophia or maybe a last-minute request from Mom about the housewarming decorations. Instead, I saw 2 messages that sliced clean through my chest. "Don't come. Sophia doesn't want you here." Before I could process that, a second message appeared. "Don't make this awkward. Family wants a private night." For a moment, I just stared, the words blurring into a single hot pulse behind my eyes. If I wasn't family, then what exactly had I been pouring my heart, time, and $60,000 into? And the strange thing was, the first impulse rising in me wasn't the urge to cry. It was something tighter, sharper, almost electric. If they wanted a night for real family, maybe it was time they learned what it felt like not to need me. I sat there in silence, the house glowing warm behind the trees as if nothing cruel had just happened. My chest felt hollow, but my mind started drifting backwards like it always did when I was hurt, toward every small, quiet moment that had taught me my place in the Ward family long before today. I wasn't born a Ward. Harold and Linda adopted me when I was 4, a wide-eyed kid who still flinched at sudden noises. People like to talk about adoption like it's a fairy tale ending a rescue story. But the truth is more complicated. My first memory in that house isn't of comfort. It's of standing in the hallway, staring at a wall covered in framed photos of their life before me. Harold and Linda smiling in front of a cabin. Linda holding a newborn Sophia with pride in her eyes. Sophia at 2 wearing a pink tutu, already the center of their universe. There was no place for me on that wall. Not then, and not for many years after. Growing up, the difference between us was never said outright. It didn't have to be. It was baked into the smallest rituals. Sophia's birthdays always had a theme, and a handmade cake from a bakery that required pre-orders. My birthdays involved a store-bought cake, and if Linda remembered, a plastic candle stuck slightly crooked in the center. Family vacations were planned around Sophia's school breaks and her art camps. I found out about most trips from overhearing conversations in the kitchen. "You'll be busy anyway," Linda would say. Busy doing what I wasn't sure, but apparently not something worth coordinating around. There was a constant hum in that house, one that told me I needed to be useful if I wanted to stay in their orbit. While they helped Sophia with homework, college tours, essay edits, I learned to fill FAFSA forms alone and took shifts at the grocery store to pay application fees. I tried not to be jealous. After all, they had chosen me. Isn't that what everyone says to adopted kids? You were chosen? But chosen doesn't always mean cherished. As we grew older, the dynamic only sharpened. Sophia bloomed into a soft, dreamy artist who floated from one idea to the next, always cushioned by Harold's quiet pride and Linda's glorifying admiration. I became the steady one, the responsible one, the dependable one who showed up, paid bills on time, and carried the emotional load Linda never saw. Sophia once laughed and said, "You're basically our family's safety net." She meant it as praise, but it felt like a label. There were moments of closeness scattered like little scraps. Nights when Sophia would curl onto my couch crying over a breakup. Days when she asked for my advice about her job or the classes she should take. I fed off those moments. I treasured them. And each time I helped her, I hoped maybe she would see me as her sister, not just the backup adult in her life. That hope is how the whole house situation began in the first place. 3 months ago, Sophia had shown me a listing with bright eyes and an excitement I rarely saw in her. A cozy lakeside cottage with a small attic, perfect for a painting studio. She told me she could picture her whole future there, and I was weak enough to want to be part of that picture. When Linda gently hinted that Sophia didn't qualify for the mortgage alone, and Harold asked if I could advise, I didn't think twice when I realized the only way Sophia could get the house was if someone added tens of thousands to the down payment I stepped in before anyone else could breathe. "I'll do it," I said. Sophia cried and hugged me. Linda smiled a tight, satisfied smile that I didn't recognize then but absolutely understand now. So yes. When I parked outside that cottage tonight, I didn't think of myself as an outsider. I thought I was someone who had finally earned her way in. The cruel truth had always been there, though. It echoed in the way Linda insisted on choosing the color palettes for the walls even though I paid the painter. In the way she redirected contractors away from me even though I signed half their checks. In the way Sophia stopped looping me into design decisions the moment Linda stepped into the room. It all pointed in the same direction. I was their provider, not their daughter. Sitting in that car, I scrolled back to the messages. 2 simple sentences that cracked 32 years of denial. "Don't come. Sophia doesn't want you here. Family wants privacy." The word family stung more than the rejection itself. For a moment, I let the pain wash over me, a deep old ache that came from the same place as every unanswered question from my childhood. But then, something inside me shifted, hardened. If they wanted me gone so badly, then maybe I should stop trying to deserve the spot they never intended to give me. I wiped my cheeks with the back of my hand, turned off the engine, and stared at the cottage one last time. "Fine," I whispered to myself. "If this is what real family means to them, let's see what happens when they don't have me to lean on." I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew one thing with absolute clarity. Tonight would be the last night they ever made me feel like this. I woke the next morning with a heaviness clinging to my chest, the kind that made it hard to tell where last night's pain ended and today's breath began. The sunlight leaking through the blinds felt too bright, almost intrusive, as if it had no idea what kind of messages I'd read sitting alone in my car outside the cottage. For a few quiet seconds, I let myself pretend none of it had happened. That the family I'd spent my whole life chasing hadn't shoved me away the moment the house was finally ready. But the truth returned quickly, sharper in the daylight. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I reached for it automatically, half expecting another cold-clipped message from Linda. But instead, it was Sophia, her name, blinking across the screen, her profile picture, the one where she was laughing in the middle of a wildflower field, glowing softly. Missed call. Then another. I stared at her name, unsure if I had the emotional strength to hear whatever excuse she or Mom using her phone was going to give. I didn't pick up. Not yet. I needed space, air, anything that wasn't the Ward family's constant gravitational pull. I dragged myself out of bed and brewed coffee, standing barefoot in my quiet apartment. The place felt small compared to the cottage I'd poured money into, yet somehow more mine than anything at Henderson Lake. I wrapped my fingers around the warm mug and let the silence settle around me. For once, I wasn't on call for anyone. The phone buzzed again, this time a text. "Need to talk." "Please," I exhaled sharply. 4 words. No apology. No explanation. The kind of clipped message people send when they expect you to just show up, no questions asked. The old me might have responded, immediately jumped in the car, smoothed things over. The new me, still shaky but rising, set the phone down and ignored it. I spent the morning cleaning the kitchen, watering my plants, doing simple things that kept my hands busy while my mind replayed every moment that led to last night's humiliation. I kept circling the same questions. Why was I always the one running toward them? Why did I keep convincing myself that maybe this time would be different? Why did I keep giving, knowing they would only take around noon while folding laundry? My phone buzzed again, this time with a different tone. A Facebook notification. Linda had posted photos from Sophia's housewarming, the one I was told not to come to. Guests dressed up, string lights twinkling, the new patio furniture gleaming. Sophia holding a champagne flute, smiling so brightly it almost hurt to look at her. And behind her, taped across the mantel in big silver letters, "Family Night." My heart clenched so tightly I had to sit down on the edge of the bed. They had posted a celebration filled with people who had known me my entire life, but not one person had asked where I was. The comments were glowing. "Looks beautiful. So happy for you, Sophia. Your family is amazing. Nothing better than family." Someone asked where's Alina. Linda replied. She had other plans, didn't want to miss them. It was like a punch to the throat. A lie so casual I could practically hear Linda's voice brushing it aside as truth. I swallowed hard, a wave of heat rising behind my eyes. I locked my phone and threw it onto the pillow beside me. I didn't cry, not yet. Anger came first this time, a slow, simmering burn that felt strangely energizing. I folded the rest of my laundry with mechanical precision, each movement grounding me in the present. I didn't owe them anything. By mid-afternoon, Sophia tried again. "Can we meet? Just talk." I ignored it. A second message followed. "Mom said you were upset. I want to understand." The boldness of that text almost made me laugh. Upset. As if this were a small misunderstanding. As if I hadn't been banned from a party I paid for, from a house I helped buy. My phone rang again, an hour later, Harold's name on the screen this time. My chest tightened. Harold rarely called me unless something big was happening, but even his name didn't make me answer. Not yet. I needed clarity before letting any of them back into my head. Instead, I drove. I didn't know where I was going until I was already halfway there. Henderson Lake always had a way of pulling me in, even when I tried to resist. I parked near the walking trail overlooking the water. Spring air brushed softly against my skin, bringing with it the smell of pine and damp earth. Joggers passed, kids on bicycles, couples holding hands, the kind of effortless belonging I'd never felt in the Ward family. I walked slowly toward a bench beneath an old oak tree, the same spot where Sophia had once painted a watercolor of the lake and given it to me for my 28th birthday. The memory made my chest ache. I'd hung that painting in my hallway for years, a reminder that she did love me at least sometimes, that maybe I wasn't imagining it. I sat down, letting the view fill my senses. The lake shimmered with streaks of gold as the sun began drifting lower. I closed my eyes and inhaled deeply, letting the quiet settle into the spaces Linda's words had torn open the night before. Part of me wished I could erase the messages, pretend they were sent in anger or miscommunicated or anything that could be undone. But truth doesn't unhappen. It only reveals what was always there. I wasn't family. I was a resource, a safety net, an accessory. The realization wasn't new, it was simply undeniable now. As the sun dipped lower, my phone buzzed again. This time I checked it. A voicemail. From Harold. I hesitated, thumb hovering. My heart thudded louder, not knowing whether hearing his voice would comfort me or break me again. I didn't play it. Not yet. Instead, I started walking again, circling the lake path. The air cooled, brushing against my cheeks like a quiet reassurance. My steps grew steadier, my breath deeper. I felt clearer. Not okay, but more grounded than I'd been in months. For the first time, I imagined a version of my life where I didn't need the Ward family's approval. A life where giving didn't mean being drained. A life where my worth didn't revolve around maintaining a place someone had never intended to let me truly occupy. Several hours passed before I returned to my car. The sky had turned a bruised purple, and streetlights blinked on one by one. I sat inside, letting the silence expand again, and finally allowed myself to cry. Not the quiet, careful tears I used to cry when I didn't want anyone to think I was being dramatic. Not the single tear running down my cheek like in a movie. Real tears. Full-bodied, unstoppable. Tears for the little girl who stood in front of that family photo wall, wishing her face were somewhere among those frames. Tears for every birthday overshadowed. Tears for every time I told myself it's fine when it wasn't. Tears for the woman who gave $60,000 hoping to buy her way into belonging. And tears for the moment I finally understood I didn't have to. When my sobs slowed, I wiped my face with shaking hands and pulled the visor mirror down. My eyes were swollen, my nose red. But something else was there too, a steadiness I hadn't expected. My phone buzzed one more time. I glanced at the screen. Harold again. Voicemail still waiting. Sophia's texts stacked beneath it like unanswered chapters. I didn't press play. Not yet. I turned the key in the ignition and let the hum of the engine wrap around me like a cocoon. Tonight I wasn't theirs to call, to summon, to explain away, to blame. Tonight I was just Elena, just one woman sitting alone in her car, breathing through the first steps of reclaiming her own life. And tomorrow I would decide which voices I was finally ready to hear. The days leading up to the inspection felt like walking through a dream I couldn't wake from, beautiful on the surface, but with a strange undercurrent running beneath everything. I kept telling myself it was nerves or excitement, or just the weight of responsibility settling in my shoulders. But every time Mom's voice cut across a conversation, or Sophia deferred to her with that familiar lightning-quick glance, something inside me tightened. On Tuesday morning, I was already awake when my alarm buzzed. I'd spent the night tossing under my blanket, replaying dozens of moments over the last few weeks, contracts, paint samples, shopping lists, trying to convince myself I was imagining the shift, that nothing was wrong. By the time I pulled into Mom and Dad's driveway, they were already waiting. Sophia stood on the porch wearing a soft ivory cardigan and a pair of jeans she called her house hunting uniform, while Mom paced, phone glued to her ear. "There you are, Mom," said briskly, barely glancing up. "We were just talking about the inspection schedule." I climbed out of my car. I thought it was at 10. It was, she said, but they moved it up. "We'll go early." I glanced at Sophia, who gave me a small shrug. Mom said it'd be easier. I decided not to push. Not yet. We drove separately, Mom and Sophia together, me behind them. It was a short drive, but I spent the whole time trying to unravel the knot in my chest. Was it jealousy, fear? Or was it something else? Something that had been whispering to me since the moment we signed papers at the title office. When we reached the cottage, the inspector was already there, clipboard in hand. He smiled politely, then turned to Sophia. "Congratulations," he said warmly. "You must be the new homeowner." Sophia beamed. Mom stepped in smoothly. "Well, technically it's under both girls for now, but this is really Sophia's space. Elena is just helping. Again." The inspector nodded politely, but his eyes flicked toward me, a man who understood more than he said. He started outside, guiding us around the house, checking siding, gutters, the roofline. Mom walked ahead with him, peppering him with questions, while Sophia snapped pictures for social media. I stayed behind, tracing my fingers along the railing I had chosen from the contractor's catalog, remembering how excited I'd been picking it out. Now it felt like touching something that never belonged to me. Inside, the inspector walked us through every room, the living room, the kitchen I had helped design, the attic space that would become Sophia's studio. Each time I asked a question, Mom answered before the inspector could, steering the conversation back to her. By the time we reached the basement, he pulled me aside discreetly. "You're the co-signer, right?" I nodded. "You might want to make sure you stay involved," he said gently. "Sometimes families forget who's actually responsible." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" He gave a small shrug. "You signed the paperwork. You're on the hook if anything goes sideways. Make sure they keep you in the loop." He didn't say more. He didn't need to. I thanked him quietly, then walked back upstairs. Mom and Sophia were standing at the kitchen island, laughing about something on Sophia's phone. They barely noticed me return. "You okay, hon?" Mom asked absently, not waiting for the answer before turning back to Sophia. I stood there for a moment, feeling like I'd been erased from a picture I helped frame. After the inspection, we spent an hour walking the property, discussing updates, scheduling contractors. Or rather, Mom scheduled them. Sophia nodded along. I hovered at the edge of conversations, offering input when I could, though most of it was dismissed with an airy, "We'll think about it." We ended outside near the porch stairs. "About the housewarming," Mom said, suddenly turning to me. "We're thinking maybe something simple." I smiled. "Okay. Do you need help with planning?" She hesitated just long enough for me to feel it. "We'll let you know." Sophia chimed in. Mom's got a vision, as if it explained everything. I forced a breath. Whatever you two want. Just tell me what you need. Mom nodded. Of course. But her smile didn't reach her eyes. Sophia hugged me before I left. I'm so excited, she whispered. This feels real now. I'm happy for you, I said truthfully. And I was, even through the ache. But as I drove away watching the cottage shrink in my rearview mirror, the knot in my chest returned with full force. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the effort. It wasn't the house. It was the slow creeping realization that I was being moved to the margins of a story I had helped build. That night I sat on my living room couch, replaying the day over and over again. The inspector's warning, Mom's tone, Sophia's dependence on Mom for every decision, the way they talked about the house as if my part in it was an inconvenience. The feeling grew, arms wrapping around my ribs. Something isn't right. And then, like a cruel flash of memory, I remembered something from the title office. A moment I'd pushed aside because I wanted everything to be perfect. When Daniel had explained the cosigner clause, Mom had gone still, her jaw tight. So, she can't be removed without written consent, Mom asked sharply. No, he said. Both parties must agree. Mom's face had changed, tightened, before she plastered on a smile. At the time, I thought she was just overwhelmed. Now I realized she wasn't overwhelmed. She was calculating, putting pieces together behind the scenes, and suddenly the last 2 weeks made sense. Her taking charge of the contractors, her deciding the decor, her pushing me out of conversations, her constant "we'll handle it," her sudden secrecy around what should have been my decisions too. Everything was leading somewhere. Somewhere I wasn't meant to be included. The truth shimmered like something underwater just out of reach. And then it clicked. She was setting the stage. For a housewarming, for a handover, for a life that didn't include me. A life she wanted Sophia to have without my name on the paperwork, without my involvement, without my presence. I sat on my couch, heart pounding, understanding forming in cold, clear lines. The exclusion hadn't begun with the text message I would receive later. It began long before that. The inspection wasn't a formality. It was the first clue, and I had missed it. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, the weight of the truth settling deep inside me. Mom wasn't just taking control, she was erasing me, and I hadn't even realized I was disappearing. I stood outside Lakeview Title and Escrow, with a folder tucked under my arm, feeling strangely like a teenager about to take a test I hadn't studied for. The spring wind tugged at my hair, while cars hummed past on the main road. Sophia bounced beside me, looking radiant in a cream sweater and new boots she'd bought for the aesthetic. Mom trailed slightly behind us, clutching her purse like she was escorting royalty. Come on, Sophia, chirped, pulling open the glass door. This is the fun part, fun. If I'd known then what this day really meant, I might have turned around and run. Inside, the title office smelled faintly of coffee and printer toner. A receptionist smiled, then looked past me and aimed her greeting directly at Sophia. You must be the buyer, Sophia giggled. Yes, and this is Elena, she's helping. Helping, not co-signing. Not funding, not taking on financial liability for the next 30 years. Just helping. I forced a polite smile as we took our seats in the waiting area, but something inside me tightened. A man in a navy suit stepped out with a clipboard. Ward party, come on back. We followed him into a small conference room stacked with paper packets. The blinds were half-closed, sunlight slicing across the long wooden table. He motioned for us to sit. I'm Daniel, he said. I'll walk you through the cosign process. He emphasized the word, glancing directly at me. It wasn't judgment, just a question. Not spoken, but loud. Are you sure you want this? Before I could reply, Mom stepped in. Oh, she's very sure. Elena's always been the reliable one. Reliable, their favorite word for me. Their polite way of saying necessary, Daniel passed copies of the mortgage documents across the table. Sophia, your credit score is a bit low, so the loan approval depends heavily on your sister's financial standing. Sophia shrugged like it was nothing new. Elena's great with money. She's basically a financial wizard. Mom laughed in agreement. Exactly. I smiled tightly, though I felt more like the family's emergency generator there, when things failed, silent when things worked. Daniel slid a new set of papers toward me. As co-signer, your name will be on the county records. That means if payments are missed, the responsibility legally shifts to you. And any ownership adjustments must involve your signature. Mom's smile flickered for half a second before she recovered. Well, we don't need to get into all of that. This is Sophia's house. Yes, Daniel said slowly. But her sister will be on the documents. She's financial owner of record. That sentence seemed to irritate Mom, though she kept her tone smooth. Legally, maybe, but emotionally, this is Sophia's dream. Sophia squeezed my arm. Let's just sign, okay? I want to pick paint colors after this. I signed 7 times, then more. Every signature felt like tying a string around my wrist. Not a painful one, just one I didn't realize someone else held the other end of. Linda leaned back in her chair, relaxed, now that the hard part was over. It really is generous of you, Elena. Not everyone would take on this kind of responsibility. Translation. You better follow through. When the initial documents were done, Daniel excused himself to run copies. The room fell quiet. Sophia leaned forward, practically vibrating with excitement. Can you imagine the attic is going to be my studio? And the patio, I already have a vision, just wait until you see the outdoor lights tonight. Mom chuckled. You should send your father pictures. Sophia paused, then looked at me. Oh, and about the housewarming party, Mom and I were thinking something classy but chill. Something in her tone felt rehearsed, but I brushed it off, telling myself not to overthink. After all, things were finally going well. Right. The next stop was the house itself for the pre-move inspection. I rode in my own car, following behind Mom and Sophia. They pulled into the driveway 20 minutes late, but neither apologized. The inspector, a middle-aged man with a kind face, walked us through the property. Every time he asked a question meant for the buyers, Sophia answered and Mom elaborated. When he glanced at me, Mom chimed in Elena's just along for moral support. The words hit harder than intended. Just along. When he showed us the basement, he pulled me aside quietly. You're the co-signer, right? Yes. You might want to keep an eye on what gets added or changed after move-in. Sometimes families treat co-signers like invisible insurance. His eyes held mine a second longer than comfortable. I swallowed hard. Thank you. I appreciate the warning. Back upstairs, Mom and Sophia were laughing about something on Sophia's phone. They didn't notice I'd been gone. Or maybe they did and it didn't matter. As we approached the kitchen island, Daniel called with a question about a clause Sophia asked him earlier. Something about transfer of ownership options. Mom walked outside to take the call privately. Sophia leaned over the counter and whispered, Mom just likes things done a certain way. Don't worry about it. But I did worry, because something felt off. A while later, the keys were placed into Sophia's hand for celebratory photos. The title company rep tried ushering me into one, but Mom gently moved between us. Let the homeowner have her moment. Elena's done plenty already. Plenty. But never enough to belong. Once the formalities wrapped up, Sophia hugged me tightly. I love you, she said into my shoulder. This house wouldn't exist without you. I held her back, letting myself believe her. For a moment I convinced myself the odd behavior was just excitement, nerves, chaos. But then the inspector, who must have walked behind us, spoke softly. Make sure you keep all your copies, miss. All of them. And if something doesn't feel right later, trust your instincts. I thanked him again. On the drive home, I replayed every moment of the day. Daniel's raised eyebrow. Mom's subtle redirections. Sophia's cheerful obliviousness. The inspector's warnings. Still, I told myself it was fine. I told myself I was family. I told myself I had finally earned my place. I didn't know it then, but this day, the day I signed everything, wasn't the beginning of something beautiful. It was the beginning of the unraveling. Years of quiet favoritism, backhanded comments, and emotional distance were about to surface in a single moment. And it would come in the form of a message I could never have imagined. I spent the next few days convincing myself that the uneasiness from the signing appointment would fade, that I was overthinking the small things, that Mom and Sophia were just riding the high of the new house, and any odd behavior would settle once move-in day came. But the feeling didn't fade. If anything, it thickened every time my phone buzzed with another message from family group chats I wasn't fully part of. We had created a new chat, Sophia's Big Day, because Mom insisted the old family thread was too cluttered. And from the moment the chat was created, I noticed something strange. Messages moved fast. Decorations, menu ideas, guest lists. But somehow, despite being one of the 3 people paying for the entire event, I felt like a guest peeking through a window rather than a participant. I kept scrolling, trying to keep up. Mom and Sophia were sharing links to table runners and balloon arches, and I added a few of my own suggestions, soft champagne tones, some cozy lanterns. No one responded. The chat simply kept going, as if my messages dissolved before reaching them. By Wednesday, I realized they had redesigned the entire aesthetic without including me. I messaged Sophia privately. "Did you want to stick with neutrals? Or are we doing the sage green theme you mentioned earlier?" She replied 2 hours later. "Oh yeah, sorry. Mom found a new theme. It's more elevated. Not my choices." I swallowed my disappointment. "Don't take it personally," I whispered to myself. It's her house. On Thursday morning, I stopped by a boutique shop and picked out a housewarming gift. I'd spent 3 days debating a beautiful set of canvas prints with soft lake tones I knew would match Sophia's studio space. They were expensive, but they felt personal and meaningful. While the cashier wrapped them, I imagined Sophia's reaction. I imagined maybe, just maybe, this would be the thing that made her look at me and say with certainty, "You're my sister." That fantasy shattered the moment I showed the gift to her later that afternoon. Sophia stared at it a few seconds too long. Her smile flickered. "It's nice," she finally said, "but I'm not sure it fits my aesthetic anymore." My chest tightened. "You can exchange it if you want." No, I'll keep it," she said. "Just maybe not for the housewarming." Mom said everything should be cohesive. Cohesive, as in Elena's choices don't belong. I nodded like it didn't hurt. The next day, contractors needed access to make last-minute adjustments. I drove over early, holding extra supplies and a coffee for everyone, only to discover the schedule had changed completely. The patio furniture had been swapped out. The lighting plan had been redone. Even the dessert table layout I'd spent an hour designing was replaced. When I asked the contractor what happened, he shrugged. "Your mom said she and Sophia revised the plan. She said to ignore anything you sent earlier." Ignore anything you sent earlier? Like I was background noise. I pressed my hand against my stomach to steady the wave of humiliation. Mom walked in right then, all brisk energy and clipped authority. "Elena," she said, not even looking up from her phone, "don't worry about the logistics anymore. Just come tomorrow. On time." She didn't ask how I was, didn't ask if I had questions, didn't ask if I needed anything. Just come. On time. As if I were a guest. I forced a smile. "Okay. Let me know if you need help." "We're good," Mom interjected quickly. "Sophia has everything under control." Sophia was nowhere in sight, probably in the living room picking out outfits for the housewarming. I stepped outside to breathe, but even the cool air didn't help the heaviness in my chest. Something was shifting quietly, intentionally, and I felt it happening beneath my feet like the ground was tilting. I tried to shake it off. I reminded myself that subtle exclusion wasn't new in this family. But this time felt different. This time the distance felt purposeful. On the drive home, my phone buzzed. A message from Aunt Lisa. Honey, what time should we arrive tomorrow? Your mom said you might be busy. Busy? I tightened my grip on the wheel. What was Mom telling everyone? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I spent the evening setting up gift bags, printing place cards, organizing trays, tasks I'd volunteered to handle weeks ago. And as I arranged them, I reminded myself this was worth it. That tomorrow might finally be the day I felt included, seen. Around 9 p.m. Dad stopped by Henderson Lake while I was dropping off the last box. He looked tired, older than usual. He watched me arrange lanterns for a moment, then said softly, "You don't need to do all of this." "It's fine," I said quickly. He stepped closer. "Elena, listen to me." His voice dropped, gentle but weighted. "People who love you will see you, even when you're not doing anything." The words hit deeper than he knew. I didn't respond. I just blinked rapidly and nodded. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say more, something important, but footsteps approached and Mom appeared. Her expression stiffened when she saw him close to me. "Harold," she said curtly, "we need to get going." Dad hesitated, glanced at me, then followed her silently. As they walked away, I heard Mom whisper something sharp under her breath. I couldn't make out all the words, but I caught enough. She always overdoes things, doesn't understand boundaries. Boundaries. Funny coming from her. I stood there, surrounded by fairy lights and expensive florals, wondering how I had once believed this night would bring us closer. On the morning of the housewarming, I chose my dress carefully, a soft blue one that made me feel elegant but not flashy. I curled my hair, put on subtle makeup, packed the gift I'd bought, and added a small card I'd written the night before. "Sophia, I'm proud of you. Your home is beautiful, just like the life you're building. Love, Elena." I slipped the card into the envelope and took a deep breath. Today would be different. Today had to be different. As I stepped toward my front door, the house quiet around me, my phone buzzed. Mom, good. Maybe she'd finally include me in something. I unlocked the screen and opened the message. And in one heartbeat, everything inside me tilted. "About tonight, we're keeping it to just family. It wouldn't be appropriate for you to come. Sophia wants an intimate evening with her real family." My vision blurred. My knees nearly buckled. I gripped the back of my chair to steady myself. Real family. The words carved straight through my ribs. I stared at the message, reading it again and again, waiting for it to transform into something less cruel. But it didn't. Mom had not only excluded me, she had claimed Sophia didn't want me there. She had erased me from the night I funded the home I'd helped create, the family I'd spent my entire life trying to belong to. My chest tightened. My throat burned. I typed back, fingers shaking. "I don't understand. Aren't I family too?" 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Then came her reply. "Elena, don't make this awkward. Sophia wants her blood family. You know what that means." I stood frozen, phone in hand, the room spinning around me. Blood family. The phrase echoed heavy and merciless. I wasn't invited because I wasn't real. Not in her eyes, not in any of theirs. And instead of breaking me, something inside me finally snapped awake. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror the next morning, trying to recognize the woman looking back at me. My eyes were puffy, my cheeks blotchy from the night before, but what unsettled me more was the stillness. A strange calm had settled over me, a silence so deep it felt like the moment before a storm breaks open. I brushed my hair slowly, deliberately, letting the steady rhythm carry me through the fog. I had woken up early, determined to pretend the day was normal, determined in some fragile corner of my heart to believe that maybe the message had been a mistake. That maybe Mom had misunderstood or typed something wrong or meant something softer than what she wrote. But I knew better. I'd always known better. Still, I forced myself to keep moving. I made coffee. I ironed my dress. I even wrapped Sophia's gift again, smoothing the paper as though neat corners could fix broken things. As though love spelled in clean handwriting might somehow earn me a place at that table. Around 3 o'clock, I checked the group chat. Everyone else was buzzing with excitement. Can't wait to see you all tonight, Sophia. You look stunning in these colors. So proud of you, honey. Not one person asked where I was. Not one wondered why I wasn't chiming in. By 5 o'clock, my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my lipstick. That's when I heard a sound that made my stomach hollow out the chime of a new message from Mom. I froze, dread pooling low and cold in my gut. Don't come. Sophia doesn't want you there. Even though I had read it the night before, seeing it again in the light of day with my dress laid out and my gift waiting by the door felt like being slapped. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my heart from rising into my throat. Before I could gather myself, another message popped up. Don't make this awkward. Family wants a private night. Family. As if the word had an invisible asterisk that excluded me. My breath hitched. My fingers hovered above the screen. Slowly, I typed back, I don't understand. Am I not family too? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, she responded. You know what I mean, Elena. This is for blood family. Don't make a scene. A cold wave rolled through me. Blood family. The phrase carved straight into my spine. I felt something inside me crumble, old and fragile, the part of me that still hoped despite decades of subtle reminders that I belonged to them. My phone buzzed again. Mom was calling. I let it ring twice before answering because some small frightened part of me needed to hear her say it out loud. Elena, she exhaled, immediately irritated. Don't drag this out. Sophia wants tonight to be special. Why would you tell me I'm not wanted? My voice trembled, betraying me. After everything I've done? Oh, don't start, she snapped. You always make things about yourself. This isn't your night. I paid for half the event, I whispered. And we thanked you, Linda's voice sharpened. But payment doesn't equal belonging. Tonight is about family memories, childhood stories, things you weren't there for. It would just be uncomfortable. For everyone. Everyone except me. I pressed my hand to my chest, trying to steady the ache spreading like wildfire. So, that's it, I whispered. I'm not family, she sighed in annoyance. You're being dramatic. Of course you're family, just a different kind. A different kind. Not real. Not enough. She kept talking, but I couldn't hear her anymore. The words dissolved into static, cold and sharp, until finally she hung up, leaving me in a silence so heavy it felt suffocating. My legs buckled. I sank onto the couch and stared at my hands, wondering how I had ever believed I belonged. Wondering how I could be so painfully foolish at 32 years old. Wondering why the child inside me kept reaching for a mother who had never reached back. My eyes burned, but no tears came, not yet. The pain was too big for that. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Where are you? We're all here already. My aunt. Of course. I hesitated, then wrote back. Mom told me I shouldn't come. Typing bubbles appeared. What? Why would she say that? Sophia asked where you were. My heart jolted. Sophia asked where I was. A second message came before I could respond. Linda told everyone you had other plans. Other plans. Like I had chosen to ignore my sister's milestone. Humiliation twisted inside me so fiercely I had to close my eyes. The tears finally broke through. I cried quietly, rocking slightly, as though holding myself together physically might keep me from falling apart entirely. Every memory, every dismissal, every subtle shrug, every moment of invisibility flooded through me like a dam bursting. I cried for the little girl who never appeared in family photos, for the teenager who packed her own lunches while Mom braided Sophia's hair, for the adult who paid and paid and paid thinking generosity might buy love. I cried until my body was empty. And in that emptiness, something else rose. Not acceptance, not forgiveness. Something harder, sharper, clarity. A clarity that whispered, if they don't want you, stop showing up, stop begging. Stop trying to buy entry into a house that never had a chair with your name on it. The thought startled me. It felt dangerous and liberating. Just then, my phone buzzed again, this time from Dad. "Elena, call me. We need to talk." I almost ignored it, almost tossed the phone aside. But something about the message, its simplicity, its urgency, made me pause. I didn't call. Not yet. Instead, I wiped my face, stood up slowly, and walked to the front window. From my apartment balcony, I could see the faint glow of Henderson Lake in the distance, soft and quiet under the setting sun. The same lake where Sophia was currently celebrating in the house I helped her buy. A house I wasn't allowed to enter. My pulse steadied as a thought took shape, clear and cold as winter water. If they didn't want me there tonight, maybe they didn't deserve what I had given them. A single sentence formed in my mind, strong enough to pull me upright. If they want a night for their real family, then they can live without everything I provided to get them there. I grabbed my phone, my jaw set, my heart finally hardening in self-defense. Tonight wasn't the end of something, it was the beginning. And by the time the sun rose again, the Ward family would feel the first tremor of the choice they made when they told me I wasn't one of them. I took a breath, steady and sure, and whispered to no one, "Fine. If they want life without me, they're going to get it." I sat in my car long after the engine cooled, watching the shadows stretch across the parking lot as evening fell. My hands were still trembling from the phone call with Mom, but underneath the shaking, something steadier had begun to bloom. A kind of quiet, razor-sharp resolve I didn't recognize in myself at first. It felt foreign and familiar at the same time, like discovering a voice I'd buried years ago. I pulled my phone from my bag, placed it face down on the passenger seat, and stared out the windshield. Not one part of me wanted to return to that cottage tonight, not after being told I wasn't family and that I should stay away. The Elena they were used to would have cried, begged for an explanation, shown up at the door, hoping someone would open it for her. But that version of me died the moment Mom typed blood family. The silence in the car felt electric, surprising, comforting. It was the first time in a long time I didn't feel guilty for choosing myself. I stepped out of the car and walked up the stairs to my apartment. The air was cool, the kind that carried the scent of pine and wet pavement after a long day. I didn't bother turning on the overhead lights. Instead, I clicked on the small lamp by the bookshelf, casting a warm glow across the room. My home felt different tonight, smaller but heavier with meaning. This was the space I paid for, the space where no one told me I didn't belong. I set down my keys, took a long breath, and opened my laptop. My hands still shook faintly as I typed in my banking login. The familiar interface popped up, and for the first time since transferring that initial $60,000, I didn't feel pride or generosity. I felt clarity. The mortgage autopay I'd set up because Sophia had forgotten the login twice in 1 week sat at the top of the list. I clicked Cancel Future Payments. A pop-up window asked if I was sure. "Yes," I whispered. Then clicked Confirm. Next were the utilities. I had set up the initial bills under my name because Linda insisted the system was too confusing for Sophia, even though Sophia was 26 years old and perfectly capable of navigating an online form. Cancel. 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 The homeowner's insurance I had arranged, another thing Mom had conveniently assigned to me, was next. I clicked the request form to remove my card from the account. A strange quiet fell over the room as each confirmation email hit my inbox. No thunder, no dramatic music, just the sound of a woman cutting the last strings she had tied to her own hands. This was the part no one in that family had ever imagined I was capable of stepping away, of saying no, of not being their safety net. I closed the banking tabs and opened the county property portal. My stomach tightened when I saw the familiar header, Henderson Lake Title Access. My name was listed as primary signatory on half the documents, and for weeks Mom had been trying with increasing urgency to get me to remove myself from those records. Not anymore. I clicked Modify Access. Sophia Ward. Remove Linda Ward. Remove property contact email. Change to mine, a notification flashed. Your request has been submitted for approval. For a moment I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen as if it might ask for permission again. But it didn't. The request was already in motion. My phone buzzed on the desk. Mom calling. I didn't pick up. Another call, this time from an unfamiliar local number. I let it go to voicemail. A text came through next. Elena, answer your phone right now. Something's wrong with the mortgage. I smiled, not cruelly, but with a strange, tired relief. Something wasn't wrong. Something was finally right. More texts poured in. The water company said the transfer didn't go through. Why are we getting error messages? Sophia can't log into the HOA portal. Did you change something? Answer us now. The desperation in their tone, people who had spent years treating me like a background character, was startling. But instead of feeling satisfaction, I felt something quieter, steadier, almost sad. This was the first time they noticed how much I did for them, only because I stopped doing it. I ignored the messages and opened my email instead. A new message from the title office had arrived, marked urgent. It read, "We received a request earlier today to remove you from the property records. Because you are a co-signer, we cannot complete the change without your written authorization." A chill traveled down my spine. Earlier today. Before the party. Before Mom texted me. Before they told me not to come. They'd planned this long before excluding me from the celebration. My hands trembled, not from fear but from confirmation. Every instinct I'd dismissed for weeks had been right. I clicked reply. Please freeze all modification requests until further notice. Do not remove my name from any documents. Within minutes, a title agent responded. Understood. Another message came in. And for your knowledge, the previous request came from Mrs. Linda Ward. I closed the laptop softly, almost tenderly. Every truth I had avoided was now undeniable. They had never intended for me to be part of that house, only to fund it. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Sophia. From a new number. Elena, please talk to me. I don't understand what's happening. Mom said you backed out. Why would you do this? A flicker of guilt tried to rise in me, tried to take root. I shut it down gently. I wasn't hurting Sophia. I was removing myself from being used. I didn't respond. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stood by the counter listening to the hum of the refrigerator. My chest felt strangely light. My breath came easier. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I wasn't the backup adult who paid bills they didn't want to handle. I wasn't the daughter who begged for scraps of affection. I was a woman reclaiming her place in her own life. My phone vibrated again, but I let it buzz against the countertop until it went quiet. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of decisions, full of realization, full of the faint beginning of self-respect blooming in tender, unfamiliar soil. I walked to the window and looked out at the city lights in the distance. Somewhere across town, the Ward family was scrambling, panicking, blaming me for problems that weren't mine to fix anymore. For the first time, I didn't feel obligated to save them. I whispered softly to my own reflection in the glass. They wanted a life without me. Let's see how it feels. Behind me, the phone buzzed once more. I didn't turn around. I woke to the sound of my phone vibrating non-stop, rattling against my nightstand like it was trying to wake the entire apartment. For a moment, I thought it was an alarm. Then I realized it was call after call stacked, overlapping, relentless. I blinked at the ceiling, that strange, quiet clarity from last night, still sitting in my chest like a steady flame. When I finally grabbed the phone, the screen was a wall of missed calls. 9 from Mom, 7 from a number I didn't recognize, 12 from Sophia, 3 from Dad, 2 from Mom again. Then, the messages loaded one after another like a dam breaking. Elena, answer your phone right now. What did you do? Mortgage payment failed. The hoe locked us out of the portal. Why are the utility accounts gone? Stop ignoring us. There is something wrong with the house records. I sat up slowly, the morning light spilling into my bedroom. My head felt strangely clear. My heart wasn't racing, my breath wasn't shallow. I was surprised at how steady I felt after the emotional earthquakes of the last few days. I typed nothing back. My silence spoke louder than any explanation ever could. A new message popped up from Mom. "Do not make me come over there. This is unacceptable." I let the phone drop onto the bed and pushed myself up. My feet touched the cool hardwood floor. I made coffee. I sliced an apple. I sat at my small kitchen table and looked out at the buildings across from mine. It felt like the first peaceful morning I'd had in months. My phone vibrated again. I ignored it. After a few minutes, it vibrated a third time, this time with a different tone, a voicemail notification. From Dad. But I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I logged into my email on my laptop. Dozens of notifications waited for me. Payment cancellation confirmed. Account access removed. Title office update. I clicked the last one. We received an in-person request this morning from Mrs. Linda Ward attempting to transfer ownership and remove your access. This request was denied. You remain the primary signatory on file. My entire body went still. In-person request. This morning. Before I woke up. Before they even tried calling me. Before the entire crisis began. Mom had started her campaign hours before I even opened my eyes. A cold truth settled over me. They weren't calling because something was wrong. They were calling because their plan had failed. My phone buzzed again, a message from Sophia this time. "Elena, please talk to me. I don't understand any of this." Mom said, "You did something out of anger, but I don't believe her. Please just tell me what's happening." I stared at the words. Part of me softened. Part of me wanted to believe she wasn't involved. But after what happened yesterday, I couldn't trust the version of events she'd been fed. I closed the messages without replying. A second later, another text came through, this one from an unfamiliar number. "Are you on your way? Linda said you couldn't make it last night. Hope everything is okay." I frowned. So Mom hadn't told them I was not wanted. She told them I was busy. Because that made her look less cruel. My anger flickered, but something else rose with it, clarity. Yesterday wasn't an accident. It wasn't poor communication. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was deliberate, calculated, executed with precision. Another photo message came through, this time from a neighbor of the cottage who'd gotten my number when we hired their son to help with yard work. "Looked like a fun night. Wish you could have made it." The picture opened. And there it was. The house I'd poured $60,000 into. Lights warm and glowing. Sophia in the center of the crowd, smiling wide. Guests enjoying the patio furniture I'd paid for. My fairy lights hanging in the background. My gift nowhere in sight. And above the mantel, silver balloons spelled out, "Family only night." My breath left my lungs. Not congratulations, Sophia. Not new beginnings. Not home sweet home. Family only. The cruelty of it cracked through the remaining pieces of my denial. Not only was I excluded, they had celebrated the reason. A chill washed over me. My phone began buzzing again. I let it. The vibration rattled the counter. Another message from Mom. "Fix this now. We can't access anything. Sophia is in tears." I whispered to myself, she wasn't in tears last night. When I didn't answer, another came through immediately. "You are acting childish. Undo whatever you did." My jaw tightened. For 32 years, they taught me one lesson: that love was conditional. That belonging had to be earned. That I could serve, assist, support, but never sit at the table. Something inside me hardened. I grabbed my phone and finally opened the voicemail from Dad. His voice came through shaky, urgent, but not angry. "Elena, something happened last night. Something you need to know. It wasn't Sophia who said those things. Please call me back. I'm on your side. I swear I'm on your side." I closed my eyes as his breath hitched through the recording. "She asked where you were. She was confused. And your mother didn't tell her the truth. Please call me when you can. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The voicemail ended. For a moment, I just sat there letting the words settle like dust after a collapse. Not Sophia. She didn't say the words. She didn't ask them to keep me away. Mom did. My chest tightened, but it wasn't pain this time. It was something else. A quiet, rising anger that didn't ask for permission anymore. My hands steadied. I stood up, walked to the window, and stared out at the still morning air. The Ward family was unraveling across town, scrambling, blaming, gaslighting, panicking. All because I finally stopped holding them together. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel responsible. I felt free. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to earn my place. They had made one thing clear. I wasn't part of their real family. Fine, they no longer had access to the version of me who kept paying anyway. My phone buzzed again, Sophia, this time her name flashing over the last unknown number. I picked it up, thumb hovering over accept. Then I let it ring. I would answer her. But not now. Not like this. First, I needed to hear Dad's truth. And then I needed to decide who I was willing to let back in when the smoke finally cleared. I played the voicemail twice before I could breathe again. Dad's voice, uneven, shaken, almost frightened, echoed through my apartment long after the message ended. I sat on the couch staring at the wall, the phone still in my hand. Outside, late morning light spilled across the floor, soft and warm, completely out of place for the way my insides felt. When my pulse finally slowed, I hit play one more time, needing to hear the words exactly as he said them. Elena, something happened last night. Something you need to know. It wasn't Sophia who said those things. Please call me back. I'm on your side. I swear I'm on your side. His breath trembled. She asked where you were. She was confused. And your mother? Your mother didn't tell her the truth. Please call me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I closed my eyes and let the silence that followed sink into me like cold water. Not Sophia. Not Sophia. It wasn't Sophia. The truth struck deep like a sudden shift in gravity. All night I'd replayed her name in my mind, imagining her choosing to shut me out of her celebration, imagining her looking right past the empty chair where I should have been. But she hadn't known. She hadn't asked for it. She had been told I was the one who didn't care. A tear rolled down my cheek, slow, hot, confused. I wiped it away quickly, not ready to feel whatever emotion was beneath it. I took a long, steady breath. Then I called Dad. He answered on the first ring. Elena, his voice cracked with so much relief that I had to swallow hard before I could speak. I got your message, I said quietly. What happened? There was a rustling sound, like he'd moved to another room. Thank God, he whispered. I wasn't sure you'd call me. I'm here, I said. Tell me the truth. He exhaled shakily. Your mother lied to you. His voice broke on the word lied. I didn't interrupt. I waited. Dad cleared his throat. Sophia never said she didn't want you there. She never asked for a blood family night. She didn't say a single word about excluding you. My eyes burned. Then why? Because your mother decided it for her. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the phone tighter. Dad, why would she do that? He was quiet a moment. When he spoke, his voice was a mix of shame and exhaustion. Because Linda doesn't want you involved in that house. Because she thinks that helping Sophia financially makes things messy. With the future, with the inheritance. Inheritance. A word that felt like sand in my mouth. Dad continued, voice low. She's been trying to get your name removed from the house records for weeks. I know, I whispered. The title office told me. I should have stopped her, he said, guilt thick in every word. But I didn't realize how far she'd take it. I didn't know she'd tell Sophia you were intentionally avoiding her. She said you were busy. She said you didn't want to make the night about you. Sophia believed her. She even tried calling you, but the signal was bad in the house, and I didn't get any calls, I murmured. I know. She was trying to step outside to call again when Linda... He paused, voice tightening. Your mother told her not to. She said you two had argued. She said you didn't want to come. Sophia went back inside upset, thinking she'd done something wrong. Something inside me cracked open, not the sharp, painful kind. More like a seam tearing on a piece of fabric I'd outgrown long ago. "Why didn't you tell me last night?" I asked. "I tried," he whispered. But Linda kept watching, controlling the room. And Sophia spent half the night crying in the kitchen, thinking she ruined things with you. The whole party was, he stopped himself. "Never mind, that doesn't matter. What matters," I said slowly, "is that everything you're telling me, it wasn't Sophia's choice." "No," he said firmly. "She never wanted you excluded." My throat tightened. I pressed my palm to my eyes. "And you," I whispered, "you knew Mom was doing this?" He didn't answer at first. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with regret. "I knew she favored Sophia. Everyone did. But I didn't realize she was keeping you two apart on purpose. I didn't see it until last night, and when I confronted her, we fought. The whole house heard it." My breath caught. "Because of me. Because of her," he corrected gently. "Because the way she treats you isn't just unfair. It's cruel, and I let it happen. For years. I'm sorry, Elena. I'm so damn sorry." The words I'd waited my whole life to hear landed in my chest like warm weight. Painful, but stabilizing. "I believe you," I said quietly. He exhaled shakily. "Please, talk to Sophia. Let her explain." "Maybe," I said. "But not today." "That's fair," he murmured. "Just don't shut her out forever. She thinks she lost you. Lost me. Funny. I'd spent decades feeling like I never had her to begin with." We said goodbye quietly. When I hung up, I sat in the stillness of my apartment, letting the truth settle around me. Linda had orchestrated everything. She had chosen every lie. She had shaped every narrative. She had spent years ensuring Sophia and I never stood fully on the same side. And I, hungry for belonging, had believed the distance was my fault. That I had done something wrong. That I wasn't lovable enough. That I needed to earn what should have been given freely. The realization was a quiet kind of devastation, but also liberation, because now I finally knew the truth, and once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. My phone buzzed again, this time a new voicemail from Mom. I didn't listen. Another came in, a text from a distant cousin. "Why is everyone so upset? Your mom said you sabotaged Sophia. Is that true?" I didn't respond. Then a picture message, another person from the party. Sophia, standing alone outside the patio, eyes red, looking toward the driveway. Looking for me. I pressed my hand against my chest. A small, painful ache bloomed there, not for last night, but for the years before it. For every moment she'd reached for me while her mother held her back. For every moment I'd convinced myself she didn't care. I closed my eyes and whispered to no one. She never wanted me gone. When I opened my eyes again, the ache had shifted into something steadier. A beginning, not an ending. I opened Dad's voicemail one last time and listened to his final words. "You deserve better than what we've given you, Elena." My breath shook. For the first time in my life, I believed him. And with that belief came something even stronger, a quiet, rising certainty that I was finally ready to face the truth, and the people who had hidden it from me. I drove to the coffee shop with my fingers gripping the steering wheel tighter than I meant, to the muscles in my forearms aching from tension I'd slept with and woken up with. The cafe sat halfway between my apartment and my parents' house, a quiet little brick building wrapped in ivy. Dad chose it because they don't play loud music, which was his way of saying he needed privacy. I parked and sat for a moment, breathing deeply, watching the morning sunlight spill across the faded wooden sign above the entrance. I wasn't sure I was ready, but I came anyway. Inside, Dad was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee waiting. He stood when he saw me, and for a second he looked like the father I remembered from good days, gentle-eyed, trying his best. "Elena," he said, voice soft, almost fragile. I nodded and slid into the seat across from him. He sat slowly like he was afraid any sudden movement would crack the fragile peace between us. I didn't know if you'd come, he admitted. Neither did I replied truthfully. He took a breath, steadying himself. I want to explain everything, and I want you to know that I'm not defending your mother, not today. The bitterness I expected didn't rise. Instead, my voice came out tired. Tell me what you need to tell me. He nodded, wrapping his hands around his coffee cup like he needed something warm to anchor him. Last night wasn't supposed to go like that, he began. Sophia didn't want you gone. She hadn't even heard about her mother's message until it was too late. When she asked where you were, Linda told her you chose not to come, that you texted saying you wanted her to have her moment. My stomach twisted. I never said that. I know Dad said. But your mother is persuasive, and Sophia is used to trusting her. Anger flashed hot in my chest, but it wasn't the wild, consuming kind. It was precise, measured, a sharp edge. Dad rubbed his forehead. When I found your mother's deleted messages, I confronted her. You found them, she was careless. She left her phone on the counter while helping wash glasses. I saw the thread with you, the messages she sent, the ones she deleted before showing Sophia. I sat up straighter. She deleted her own messages. He nodded. Everything that made her look bad. Everything that showed she'd pushed you out. I didn't know whether to scream or to walk out. For the first time since last night, I felt real grief. Grief for believing her. Grief for thinking Sophia had written me off. Grief for every moment I'd spent crying alone while they celebrated in the house I helped buy. Dad continued, voice shaking a little. When I asked her why she lied, she said he swallowed hard. She said you weren't supposed to be part of this. That this was about giving Sophia a fresh start. A fresh start without me, I whispered. A fresh start without your financial involvement, Dad corrected gently. She thinks you complicate things. She thinks you overshadow Sophia. I blinked. Hard. Overshadow her? He held my gaze, guilt etched into every line on his face. You grew up and became everything she's not: independent, stable, successful. She's always seen that as a threat. A threat to my own mother. I leaned back, the air suddenly too thin around me. Dad sighed. Your mother has a way of twisting things in her head until she believes them. And she truly believed that last night you'd ruin things. She convinced herself that excluding you was protecting Sophia. I shook my head. Protecting her from what? From feeling inferior, he whispered. From thinking she needed you. I stared at him. But she did need me. Yes, he said. But your mother hates the idea that Sophia needs anyone more than she needs her. I pressed my fingers to my temples, fighting the urge to laugh, cry, or both at once. He continued, voice softer. After the party ended, Sophia demanded to know why you never showed up. And when I told her the truth, she broke down. The image hit me like a punch. My sister crying in a kitchen lit by fairy lights I hung with my own hands. She felt guilty, angry, confused, Dad said. She kept saying she didn't want this. That she didn't want to lose you. My throat tightened. But she still let Mom run everything. He didn't argue. She's been raised to defer to your mother, to trust that Linda knows best. But that's changing. Last night forced her to see things she didn't want to see. I stared down at the table. And what about you? What did you see? Dad looked away, ashamed. I saw all the years I should have protected you. All the times I stayed quiet to avoid a fight. All the things I allowed Linda to get away with. I didn't speak, he continued. I've been a coward, he said simply, and I'm sorry for that. I can't undo the past, but I can tell you the truth now. You deserved better. You always did. Silence settled between us, not cold but heavy with everything unspoken. Finally I asked, where is she now, Mom? At home, he said. Furious. She thinks you sabotaged the house accounts out of spite. She told everyone you ruined Sophia's night. I scoffed. And did they believe her? Some, he admitted. They only hear her side, but those who know you, they're asking questions. I nodded slowly. Good. Dad hesitated. And Sophia? My stomach tightened. What about her? She wants to talk to you, he said. Really talk. Not through your mother, not through guilt, just sister to sister. The words didn't hit me the way I expected. There was no immediate warmth, no rush of forgiveness, just a steady, cautious ache. I need time, I said. That's fair. Dad exhaled relief, softening his shoulders. But don't shut the door forever. I think she's starting to understand just how much your mother has controlled. We sat in quiet for a while. Dad drank his coffee. Mine sat untouched, cooling slowly between my hands. When we finally stood to leave, he paused before walking away. You have every right to protect yourself, he said quietly. But don't forget there's love for you in this family. Maybe not from everyone, but from me. From Sophia. And one day I hope from yourself. I swallowed hard, unable to speak. He gave me a small, sad smile and stepped past me toward the door. The bell chimed as he left. I sat back down, letting his words echo in the quiet corner of the cafe. My heart hurt. But not from betrayal. Not from rage. It hurt because some small, stubborn part of me still wanted a sister, still wanted a father, still wanted a family that chose me not out of need, but out of love. And as much as I hated to admit it, Dad was right. This wasn't over. Not with Sophia, not with Mom, not with myself. Something had cracked open, and now it was time to decide what, if anything, would grow in the space that remained. I walked around the block twice before I finally made myself turn toward the lakeside cottage. The house sat glowing beneath the soft afternoon sun, its cream-colored siding warmed the porch, wrapped in new potted plants I hadn't picked out. It looked peaceful, still. Nothing like the emotional wreckage swirling inside me. I stood at the edge of the driveway, clutching my jacket against the breeze. My heart beat so hard I could feel it in my palms. I wasn't afraid of seeing Sophia. I wasn't afraid of seeing the house. I was afraid of confronting 32 years of patterns I'd never dared question. When the door finally opened, it wasn't Mom. It was Sophia. She stepped onto the porch slowly, like she was approaching a wounded animal she didn't want to startle. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Her hair was in a messy bun. She looked completely unlike the sparkling, glowing woman from the party photos. "Elena," she whispered. I didn't move. Not until she began walking toward me, hesitating only when she was a few feet away. "Can we talk inside?" she asked. My throat felt tight, but I nodded. "Yeah." She stepped aside, letting me walk past her into the house I paid for, at least half of it. The scent of new paint and vanilla candles filled the living room. Balloons from last night were deflated and sagging in the corner. Empty glasses sat stacked near the sink. Fairy lights glowed softly along the mantel, lights I had hung myself. Sophia closed the door gently and turned to face me. "Thank you for coming." I crossed my arms, not to protect myself, but to stop my hands from shaking. "Dad called me." Sophia nodded, emotions flickering across her face. I figured. He left here right after talking to me. Silence stretched between us, fragile and thin. Finally, Sophia took a breath. "I need to say something before I lose my nerve." She tucked a piece of hair behind her ear. "I didn't know what Mom said to you." "I know," I said. "Dad told me." Her shoulders slumped with relief. "I swear I didn't ask her to keep you away. I thought you were coming. When you didn't show up, I thought I'd done something wrong." A small, bitter ache pulled inside my chest. "You didn't do anything wrong. But I didn't do anything right either," she said, stepping closer. "I should have checked. I should have called again. I should have walked outside and driven to your apartment if I had to." Her voice cracked. "Instead, I let her tell me what you said, what you felt. And I believed her." I swallowed hard. "You've always believed her." "I know," she whispered. "And I'm sorry." She motioned toward the couch, and we both sat far enough apart that it wasn't too intimate, close enough that it didn't feel like a negotiation. Sophia looked down at her hands. "Last night, after the guests left, I asked Mom why you didn't come. And she said Sophia stopped, eyes shimmering. She said, "You wanted the night to be about me." She said you didn't want to make things awkward. She said you were too busy to be bothered with the party details. I closed my eyes, pain pinching my forehead. She said a lot. "She lied, Sophia," said her voice shaking. "She lied to me to keep you away." I didn't know what to say, so I waited. When Dad told me what really happened about the text messages and the fact she told you I didn't want you here, Sophia's breath hitched. I felt sick. I still do. The heaviness in my chest loosened a little. "It wasn't your fault." "But it was," she insisted. "Not the texts, not the lies, but the pattern. I've let her speak for me for years. I let her control who I talked to, how much I leaned on you, what I shared with you." Her voice softened with regret. "I let her divide us, and I never questioned it. This time I spoke." Why her eyes fell closed. "Because growing up, I was always compared to you. My breath caught. I hadn't expected that." "I know they favored me," she said, opening her eyes. "But not everything felt like favoritism. Some of it felt like pressure. Like I wasn't good enough unless I followed Mom's script." She gestured around at the house. "Even this." She said I needed a home that matched my future. She said I shouldn't rely on you too much because it would make me weak. I blinked. She said that. Sophia nodded, and I believed her, because I wanted her approval, and I wanted yours. But I didn't know how to have both. A lump formed in my throat. "Soph, you always had my approval. But I didn't feel like I deserved it," she whispered. "You went to college on your own. You built your career on your own. You bought your home on your own. Meanwhile, I needed help for everything. I felt like dead weight. Like if I leaned on you, I'd disappear next to you." Mom fed that insecurity every chance she got. We sat in a silence so raw it almost hummed. "Then why let her cut me out?" My voice trembled. "Why let her say I wasn't family?" Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "Because I didn't know she said it, and because I've been too afraid to challenge her." She swallowed hard. "But I'm not afraid anymore." I studied her, searching for the hesitation I'd always seen in her, but it wasn't there. She was shaking, yes, but steady. "Dad told me what you did," she continued quietly. "About the house accounts, the mortgage, the utilities." She looked at me with a mix of fear and understanding. "And I know Mom is blaming you, but I'm not." I tilted my head. "You're not." "Upset I was for a moment," she admitted. "It scared me. But then I realized you weren't punishing me. You were protecting yourself." For once, something inside me softened painfully. Sophia wiped her cheeks, and I needed that wake-up call too. I inhaled slowly. "So what do you want from me now?" She didn't rush the answer. She didn't deflect. She didn't crumble. She simply said, "I want a real relationship with you. One that doesn't go through Mom. One that isn't built on me taking and you giving. One that isn't controlled by lies." My chest tightened. "Soph, that's a big promise." "I know." She nodded. "And I'm not asking for forgiveness today. I'm asking for a chance to prove it." A long silence settled between us, heavy, emotional, necessary. Finally, I let out a slow breath. "I can give you that chance, but with boundaries. Real ones." She nodded quickly. "Yes, please, I want that." "And Mom," I began. "She won't be part of this," Sophia said firmly. "Not until she apologizes to you. And even then, only if you decide you want her involved." A slow, stunned breath left me. Sophia wasn't the girl I'd grown up with. She wasn't a pawn anymore. She wasn't being pulled by invisible strings. She was a woman taking responsibility. "Okay," I whispered. She reached out carefully, hesitantly resting her hand on mine. "I'm sorry, Elena, not just for last night, but for every time I made you feel less than loved." My eyes filled. "I know, and I'm going to pay back what I owe you," she continued. "Every cent Dad spent to cover for me, and every cent you ever gave." I opened my mouth to protest, but she shook her head. "No excuses, No promises I don't keep. I'm writing it down. I'm signing it. Dad has it. She took a shaky breath. This time I'm doing it right. Something warm, hesitant, and almost childlike moved in my chest. We sat there for a moment, two sisters, unraveling decades of distance, thread by thread. Finally, I squeezed her hand lightly. Let's start over. A tear rolled down her cheek. She nodded. I'd like that. We sat together, quietly rebuilding something broken. Not perfectly, not all at once, but honestly. And for the first time in years, I let myself believe in the possibility of a sisterhood that wasn't defined by what we were told, but by what we chose. I stepped outside the cottage with Sophia and felt the quiet settle around us like a soft blanket. The house behind her house glowed gently in the late afternoon sun, no longer a symbol of what I'd lost, but something else entirely, something rebuilding, something possible. We stood together at the edge of the porch, a careful, fragile peace between us. Sophia wrapped her arms around herself, watching the breeze ripple across Henderson Lake. I waited, letting her speak when she was ready. I know things won't magically fix themselves, she said softly. I know it's going to take time, and work, and probably a lot of uncomfortable conversations. I nodded. Yeah, it will. She looked at me, eyes glossy but steady. But I'm willing to do it. I believed her. Not because she said it with perfect sincerity, but because she finally said it without Mom's voice woven into the words. We walked down the steps together. Sophia hesitated near my car. Would you? She took a breath. Would you come to the new farewell dinner? The real one? The one I get to choose? Just us. Me and you and Dad. No themes, no balloons, no family-only banners. Her voice cracked. Just the people I want. Something warm flared in my chest, small but unmistakable. I'll think about it. She smiled, not hurt, not disappointed, just understanding. That's fair. We hugged carefully at first, like we were both afraid of doing it wrong, then tighter, more real. When we pulled back, she wiped her cheeks. I love you, Elena, she whispered. I always have. Even when I didn't show it. My throat tightened. I love you too. After she went back inside, I sat in my car and let the quiet fill me. No tears, no ache. Just a strange mixture of relief and exhaustion. And beneath it all, something stronger. Clarity. For decades, I had assigned myself the role of fixer-provider background hero. I had believed love meant proving myself, earning my place, giving, until there was nothing left to give. But love, real love, didn't demand sacrifice as proof. It didn't demand that I disappear to make others comfortable. It didn't require me to shrink to fit inside someone else's insecurities. Love needed boundaries, and I finally had them. Over the next 6 months, everything shifted. Not overnight, not perfectly, but slowly, authentically. Dad and I met for coffee every other week, sometimes talking about the past, sometimes arguing, sometimes simply existing together in quiet understanding. He apologized more times than I could count, not out of guilt, but out of genuine recognition. And he meant every word. Mom was different. Distance hung between us, a necessary frost. She tried small gestures, an occasional invitation, a polite text, a gift card for a restaurant she thought I liked but didn't. None of it was malicious, but none of it was enough. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And for once, I didn't feel responsible for fixing her feelings. Sophia and I rebuilt something tender, careful, and honest. She made monthly payments not because I demanded it, but because she insisted. And every time I deposited her checks into a separate savings account, I felt something quiet and proud settle inside me. Not pride in the money, pride in the boundary, pride in the growth it represented for both of us. One afternoon in late summer, a letter arrived from London. Heavy ivory stationery with a bronze wax seal. Inside was a photo of Sophia standing outside the studio. She had rented, paint on her hands, wind in her hair, smiling with the kind of freedom I'd always wanted for her. The note was short. "Elena, I'm finding myself. Thank you for letting me do it without losing you. Come visit when you're ready. Love, Sophia." I pinned the letter to my fridge, not as a reminder of what I'd given her, but of what we were building now. A relationship with truth, not obligation, not guilt, not Mom's script, ours. As for me, the most profound change wasn't external. It wasn't about the house or the money or the apologies. It was internal. I learned I didn't need to earn my place in anyone's life. I learned that love without boundaries wasn't love, it was self-erasure. I learned that my worth had never been tied to the size of my sacrifices. And slowly, gently, I forgave myself for not understanding it sooner. Life became quieter, softer, more mine. Sometimes I walked past Henderson Lake and saw the cottage in the distance. Instead of pain, I felt something else, peace. Because that house was no longer a symbol of exclusion, it was a symbol of transformation. Sophia's, Dad's, mine. I built my own family not just from blood or adoption, but from the people who showed up with honesty, respect, and care. Jaime. A few cousins from Dad's side. Neighbors who invited me to potlucks. Co-workers who became friends. Rings of connection built by choice, not obligation. And I learned something important. Something I want every person listening to this to hear. Family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shares your respect, your truth, your boundaries, your healing. As I sit here now telling you this story, I can look back at that girl in the car, the one who read the words, "Don't come," and thought it meant she wasn't worthy. If I could speak to her, I'd tell her, you never needed their permission to belong. You belong because you exist. And that's enough. Thank you for listening to my journey. If this story resonated with you in any way, if it reminded you of your own family dynamics, your own boundaries, your own moments of choosing yourself, please share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories of resilience, healing, and emotional justice. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from what hurts you, so you can walk toward who you were always meant to be.